He's somebody that every time I call him was fully present.
It was his servant heart.
Zach affected people by walking in the room.
Even through high school, he just dominated.
He could dance to anything. I've always believed, God gives you the exact number of days on earth.
For a report to come out, oh, just another athlete that died of a drug overdose, that doesn't tell the story. When Zach was a little boy, he thought he was a cowboy. Every day he got up and he put on jeans and boots and a cowboy hat and his guns. And he would look at you and he would go, "I'm Walker, Texas Ranger." I remember when Zach found his hands as an infant. He was in a stroller in the mall, and I happened to look down and he had his hands in front of him and he was moving each individual finger. I think in his mind he was thinking, these are the greatest things I have ever seen.
He could take a room and figure out who's who, and he'd have you down, and make you laugh, He was more of a people person anyways. Sports just happened to be somewhat easy for him, and so that's where he made a lot of his friends in sports.
When he was young and through the elementary years, and to be honest, even through high school, he just dominated.
And that ball is smoked to left field, and that is gone. A two-run homer for Zach Hoffpauir.
I was like, oh, football's fun, but I'm gonna play baseball. I was already getting offers in baseball. I had Utah, Baylor, as a sophomore going in my junior year.
Going into the recruiting process, it was important that he was trying to figure out what universities would let him play both sports. To be quite honest, ASU was not on our radar.
I was like, I don't want him thinking anything but Stanford. They always said, if you get hurt, where do you want to be? That's what I was thinking at the time.
Todd Graham maybe had been there 2.5 weeks, brand new. He started recruiting Zach right off the bat.
I haven't recruited in 32 years a person that had the character that Zach had. I just think he was just a servant leader with his team at Centennial and just everyone that meets him. And I think we just really connected on a spiritual level.
Right away when Coach Graham was talking, I was like, dude, I gotta go here.
His heart, I believe, was ASU and Todd Graham. But the pressure was, you don't turn down Stanford.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zachary Hoffpauir, Stanford football number 10, a true legend and a GOAT.
At the end of the day, Zach did not choose the ASU hat, he chose the Stanford hat.
His freshman year, it was hard. I mean, you take the academics, just being away from home, because most of those kids aren't from that area, just normal stuff that you deal with as a kid, and they were still kids. Yeah, they're freshmen and they're playing, because now all of a sudden sports became a business.
After games, I was like, I don't feel happy, I feel relieved. But now I'm thinking about the next one, I'm like, oh, stressed out again.
I think Stanford was very hard for Zach, but we were seeing he was depressed, he wasn't happy. I think he regretted his decision. This football and baseball and academics was too much, and I believe he was in a lot of pain.
Right about a month before baseball season ended, he's like, Dad, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can finish up. And I'm like, Zach, you need to finish up. You can do this.
The biggest reason I didn't quit at Stanford or transfer was because I felt like I had the whole west side of Arizona, Centennial, Peoria, my family. I didn't even love sports that much. I did everything for everyone else.
Basically, it came down to him staying for football or getting drafted and going to baseball. And as far as draft goes, he just wanted out. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about the round. He just wanted out. He goes to Missoula, and I get this call. Hey man, this is a great place. Can you send my fishing gear? So I sent all this fly fishing stuff. And he said, Dad, I'm at peace. I'm finally at peace. This is what he needed. He said, all I have to do is show up and play baseball.
And so he played that season in the minors with the Diamondbacks, and then he decided he missed football. And who on earth can leave football for an entire year, make a phone call, and getting back the strong safety job started out as a really good year. I mean, Zach played great, but then he got 2 concussions in a row. When he came home after that, that's when we really started to see the problems.
I medically retired, which I acted like that didn't bother me, but it did. I was already just so destroyed physically from playing 2 sports and drained mentally. So when I get back, I medically retire, boom, emotional, like stimulate trauma. Basically, it was a stripping of identity for me.
He comes home, he's struggling, but he ends up deciding, I think I'm going to give baseball another try. He calls the Diamondbacks, they give him a workout, and they sign him again. And then he goes to Oregon and plays for a while there, and then ends up coming back home.
He was meeting with the counselor, and honestly, I don't think it helped a whole lot. And I've been able to read a lot of his journals and see his struggle in his journal. He would always say, I love God. God's got a plan for my life. But then down here, he'd be like, please help me. I've never seen a kid work so hard just to be normal. He said, Dad, I just want to feel normal, and he never did. He never did. It got worse and worse and worse.
All through high school, he never touched alcohol. He was an athlete. But when he turned 21, he went out with his friends and he had a beer. And I remember him describing it to me. And he said, I cannot tell you what that did inside my body. And he said, for the first time, and I don't remember, I could breathe. And he just progressively got worse. And he got concussion after concussion.
My friends were worried about me. I was suicidal beyond whatever you could imagine. Like, I was like, I'm done. Like, I have nothing else to give. Went to the mental health facility for a little bit. They couldn't find out what was wrong. Christian McCaffrey saves my life, dude. Like, my dad texts him. He calls my dad in 30 seconds. Like, I'm gonna fly him out here. He's gonna see this Dr. Pressmack, who's the chief of neurosurgery for the Broncos.
Okay.
Sit down with him within 15 minutes. He tells me it's Lyme disease. My dopamine levels were 0. I couldn't, like, 0 dopamine at all. My testosterone levels were almost gone. My cortisol was through the roof, saying cortisol is fight or flight. So basically, I'm living off of pure fear and anxiety.
He worked himself out of some of the darkest times of his life. Was he self-medicating? Yeah. Was he drinking too much? Yeah, because it's what gave him rest, often from the torture.
But with Zach, they would give him medication or whatever it is. Oh, well, take this and you're gonna be fine. Take this and you're gonna be fine. And he wasn't. It didn't help. And then he's like, hey, I need either more of this or I need something else. He always knew something else was going on.
To get real, dude, I did try to take my own life. I tried to overdose. I think I took like 6 Xanax bars and 25 Benadryl.
So were you just taking Xanax all the time?
No, I didn't. I got my hands on some.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even in my head to do that yet. And I was stumbling around. And I remember I went into like the bathroom and I see this Benadryl. All I remember is looking at the Benadryl. I was like, I'm done. And took it all at once. I don't know how much, dude. It was a big old handful. Took it all. Slept for like 2 days. Didn't go to the hospital. My sister was in there taking my blood pressure.
I remember getting help, and Hillary came over, and his amazing sister came over and took care of him. And thank God for her.
I wake up and I walk out. My dad's sitting there. I was like, I'm sorry.
He's like, Dad, I do not want to die. He went into a mental hospital, which is scary. I'm sorry. If you're a parent and you hear that, you have all these visions of what that could be like. And that was a hard time. And then he slowly tried to climb out.
And ended up taking the coaching job at the University of Northern Colorado, the safeties coach, and was really, we could see Zach. He was so excited for what he was doing in the lives of these young men. And then COVID happened, and he got furloughed, and he came home. And he was doing okay. He was struggling a little bit. He never slept.
He had his times, but he was talking and he was happy and doing his thing.
He didn't sleep one night, and he got a Percocet from a friend, and it was laced with fentanyl, and he died instantly. And that was really hard, because We had been through so much with him, and his grit and his brilliance had just pushed himself through so much. And so it was so hard for me to accept that now we're gonna lose him like that in an accident. And then it was painful because, you know, people want to know about Zach. He was a hometown boy. He was, in many ways, he was this hometown star. And then, you know, for a report to come out, oh, just another athlete that died of a drug overdose, that doesn't tell the story.
That morning I went to go fishing. I got up at 3. We talked a little bit because, hey, I would love to go fishing with you and Papa, but I've got too many video things going on today with school. And I'm like, okay. So the last thing we talked about, he said, you know, I just said, Zach, I love you. And he goes, Dad, I love you too. That's the last thing he said. And I walk out and then came back somewhere around 11:30. I was really tired, and his door was still shut. And so went to sleep and then woke up, and I just had this weird feeling. And went in his room, he was gone.
We sent his brain off to Boston University to do CTE research, and it came back that not only did he have CTE, but he was already progressed into stage 2.
What we found in his brain, and I do think it is remarkable, even given, you know, so much experience with this disease, he had quite a number of what we call lesions in the brain. They were mostly in the frontal lobe, but they were also in the temporal lobe. It was really riddled with CTE lesions.
I can see it all makes sense to me now. I mean, he was struggling to just be alive and feel okay. And when that never happens, and then you can't sleep, and you know, he just got desperate, thought, oh, I'm gonna take this. And again, that's definitely not what he wanted.
Just imagine what Zach's parents are going through. This beautiful, talented, incredibly intelligent young man dying at 26 with the ravages of this disease in his brain. And it wouldn't have gotten better. If he'd lived, it would have gotten worse.
Come 40s, he probably would have had either Alzheimer's or Lou Gehrig's or Parkinson's. And that would have been really hard for Zachary to endure and to watch himself deteriorate.
It's not shocking that he has CTE or even stage 2, but it's shocking that he only played 9 years of football and he has that amount.
We know from our own work that for every 2.6 years of playing football, your risk for CTE doubles.
I think Zach was convinced he had it because he would forget things and he would look at me and go, #CTE. He was angry. He was more aggressive. He wasn't the easygoing Zach. He was dark, really depressed. And his anxiety was torturous.
Most common symptoms are, especially in younger individuals, depression or mood disorder. It can be suicidal thinking. We get personality changes, usually a short fuse, irritability, and then a sense of loss of control. They've lost their ability to control their thinking and acts.
If you look at all of the symptoms of CTE, now we know that Zach was the poster child for all of those symptoms. The sad thing is you can't see it until someone passes away.
CTE generally is something that the person does notice that something's not right. And then they go to get help and, you know, the medical profession can't pinpoint it, they can't figure it out.
And that's the hardest part, because I couldn't give him help because I didn't know enough. And so I look back at that, and that was hard because he was crying out for help, but I didn't know. I mean, I thought this was okay, well, he's depressed or whatever, but it was way deeper.
These individuals sometimes feel very misunderstood. They can feel like no one takes their symptoms seriously and no one can help them. And so that just adds to this suffering that they experience.
The only thing that I ever regret about it is that he truly didn't know what he had. He knew it. He kept saying it. There's something wrong. I don't know what it is. My head. I don't want to feel this way. But he always persevered through it.
At first, I could not stop crying thinking about the torture that he had gone through. And then I felt a slight amount of peace in the sense that there would be some justification for Zachary, for people to truly understand what he had been facing and going through. And in my own heart, there was a little bit of a thankfulness of God's mercy, that Zachary got to go out as Zachary.
I've always believed, God gives you the exact number of days on earth. So was there anything we could have done to keep Zach here longer? I don't believe that. But he lived life, and he was in the lives of so many people, more than I could ever imagine at someone his age.
He's somebody that every time I called him was fully present. And to a point, it was exhausting talking to him. I talked for 3 hours, but I never knew how much I needed every word.
When he spoke to you, it was deep. Like, you could do this thing for a minute, and then Zach would go, yeah, but really, how's it going?
Well, Zach moment is really him just picking up the phone and calling me, just actually saying like, hey man, how are you doing? And not taking like, well, yeah, I'm good, I'm fine. No, it's like, how are you doing? How's your family? Like, what's going on with you? Like, what are you trying to do in life?
Most guys that are leaders, they affect people in certain ways. Zach affected people by walking in the room, right? If you weren't paying attention to him, he was going to get your attention. If he wanted to pull something out of you, he was going to pull at you until he got it out of you. He did it to me as a head coach. He just brought more energy and juice out of me. And coach, I'm going to make you smile today. Like just little things like that, that we always appreciated that Zach brought to the table.
Let's go, baby, let's go.
When he was in the mental hospital for a week, I walked in one day and they were doing group therapy, and Zachary is leading the group therapy. And I'm like, what in the world? He's in here for a reason. Why is he leading the group therapy?
That's who Zach was. And he said, those are my people, the broken people, because people would always see Zach this way, but he was broken. And maybe not early on, but when he got to that point, he said, people don't understand unless you've been through it.
So he's standing at the end of the conference table and he's leading this whole thing. And so when it's over, I watched as each person walked out and he hugged every person and they would go, thanks, Hoff.
Live your life in the service of your people. To me, it was his servant heart. He was passionate about it. I hope that, in my life that someone would say that about me, because I think that's the greatest compliment you can have.
2 nights after he died, I get this message on Facebook or on Insta, and this guy, Jamond, and he's a player at UNC at Northern Colorado. And he sends me this whole thing. I don't know if you don't know me, but Zach saved my life. He brought Jamond into his office, and it wasn't about football. It's about life and who you are as a person and your heart as a player.
So we're at Vanderbilt, we're playing in the Super Series, baseball. I see this older man come out of the crowd, totally dressed in Vanderbilt. Zach hugs him and they laugh, and later on, I talk to him, I go, Zachary, who is that guy? And he said he wanted to come over and meet me. He said, I wanted to come tell you that we love you, that you have entertained us in the outfield all weekend with your dancing.
He could dance to anything.
Like, he doesn't just dance like hip hop. He can dance bachata. He can dance, line. He can line dance, right? He can polka. He's just a superior dancer. I rate him a 10 out of 10, honestly.
Zach was that guy that I think could just go into a room and make everyone feel welcome. And it wasn't a show.
When he was broken and we were going through all the mental health, I looked up one day and I go, he was back in jeans and boots, a shirt and a cowboy hat. And later on, when I got to thinking about it, I thought, I get it, Zachary, you showed me. At the core, you loved simple. You were a cowboy. You were Walker, Texas Ranger. And because of your gift, you entered into that world of the sports star. And you could dance and you could do all this stuff, and you lived that image for so long until, baby, you couldn't. It ate you alive. At the end of the day, you were broken and you were alone and you were being tortured and it wasn't going to work out and you didn't make it and you felt like a failure and all of those things. And so you walked away from that image and you walked back into your boots. And then again, all of a sudden he was like Walker, Texas Ranger.